When it comes to October and the energy price cap goes up again, and there are hundreds of thousands of families who simply can't pay the bill.
So obviously that's a plan, that's an issue for the next Chancellor. We're going to have a new Prime Minister in September, and the new Chancellor will have to deal, I think, very robustly with that problem. I think that one way we can't deal with the cost of living is simply by raising taxes. That's why I'm backing Liz Truss. She's been very clear from the start that we've got to reduce tax burden on working families. We've got to make sure that people keep more of their own money so that they can get through a difficult time. Rishi Sunak's views are very much the opposite. He says we've got to keep increasing taxes. The tax burden is at its highest since 1949. Think of that, 1949, 73 years ago. And he wants to increase more taxes. That is not the way to get growth. That is not the way to help working families in this economy. And on top of that, only yesterday, the IMF suggested that our growth of the G7 countries would be the lowest in 2023, the lowest of all 7. And this is not the time simply to keep increasing taxes. I'm very pleased, actually, that he's now done a bit of a U-turn, a screeching, handbrake U-turn on VAT, on energy bills. He's saying that he's going to reduce that, having argued very passionately that this was the wrong thing to do only a few months ago.
Is how he would pay for that, and obviously he calls Liz Truss's plans fairy tale economics, and what isn't clear is whether the tax cuts which she proposes that you support are actually going to increase inflation, which would make life worse for just about everybody. And indeed, her own financial advisor, her own economics advisor, said it could push interest rates up to about 7%. So how's that good for anybody?
So I don't think the 7% is. I think that is fantasy. Interest rates are controlled by the Bank of England, and there's no way that they're going to put them up to that. So we can put that to one side. What is fairy tale economics is saying that a VAT cut on energy bills would disproportionately help rich families only 4 months ago, and now saying it's a really good idea now. And the reason he's doing that is because he's under pressure. He knows that his tax raising agenda isn't working. To me, it seems strange that anybody could aspire to the Tory leadership essentially advocating tax rises, but that's up to him. But I think he suddenly realised that he's on very dodgy ground there and is now flipping back to saying that VAT should be abolished or reduced on energy bills. That's the fairy tale. And I think he's come very late to that party. We believe in tax cuts because we believe that people should keep more of their own money. And we also believe that that's the way not only to incentivise people, but to get growth in the economy. And as I've just referred to, the IMF are saying we're going to be the lowest growing economy of the whole G7. Delighted that Rishi is now signing up to our agenda. I believe that his VAT cut is unfunded, which he said was a fairy tale. He also said he was a grown-up. I'm glad to see that being a grown-up does entail advocating tax cuts. I'm very pleased to see that.
In the meantime, it's the public who are dealing with rising costs of inflation, the cost of living, their energy bills, their food prices. And then you've got members of, let's say, the RMT union, people working on our railways who say, I cannot pay my bills. What is the solution? Today, again, our transport will pretty much ground to a halt. About a fifth of services running. What's the solution to solve these strikes?
I think the strikes, people do need to have a conversation, but we've got to accept what the unions are trying to do. I think they're trying to hold the public to ransom, and that's why Liz Truss is saying we need to have a tougher approach on union power. She's going to lift the threshold on strikes, I think, from 40 to 50%, and she's going to take a very robust approach to that. I think that holding the public to ransom on key workers, people just trying to get along, trying to make a living, I think that's really irresponsible, and I hope that the strikes can be resolved very quickly.
But I suppose within all of this, and perhaps it is irresponsible, I'm not one to judge, but you do have to take into account those people who are on very low wages, who are really, in that sector, who are really struggling. I mean, you can't just tell them they're plain wrong, can you?
No, I think there's always a conversation to be had. But then sometimes I think people are being unreasonable. There are lots of low-paid workers in other sectors who don't have the leverage. They don't have the ability to hold the public to ransom in this way. And I don't think that's acceptable either.